Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking apart a Sig Sauer 516 patrol rifle. This bad boy right here. Okay? Now, whenever dealing with any firearms that we're going to be taking apart, the first thing we have to do, like every time, is make sure that it's unloaded. And the way that we do that is by checking inside the magazine well here, seeing that there is no magazine present in the gun. I also have the bolt locked back, so my finger can actually go inside here, seeing that there is no bullet sitting inside the chamber or anywhere around where it could go finally sit inside the chamber and be fired. So we know that this gun is unloaded, and we are ready to go and take this apart. So the first thing we got to do is actually have that bolt go home, and that's got to sit in the closed position right there. That allows us to take this gun apart further. Okay, so what I first have to do is I have to knock out the takedown pins in the front and the rear that are having the lower and upper receiver hold on to each other. And those pins sit right here, this one there, and then this one up here. Okay? So I'm going to knock both of those pins out, and when I do, I will be able to separate the two halves, the upper and the lower.
What's the name of the tool you're using?
This tool is from an Otis cleaning kit, so I mean, this could be a pin. This is just a pin to reach little small spots, but I'm just using the handle part.
What else could you use if you don't have that?
A sturdy pen. I use that a lot. A punch. Brass punch, metal punch, anything like that. You don't want to be too harsh on these pins. They should be fairly easy to have take in and out. So there shouldn't be a whole hell of a lot of pressure that you're going to be using. But if you are having a ton of pressure that is needed to even take these off, something could be wrong with the detent pin that's holding them in place. So I would definitely look into that further. Okay, so once we have taken these two bits apart here, the upper and the lower, right, you can see inside here, this is your trigger housing right here, this whole area right here. So you got your trigger itself, you got your hammer back here. Behind it, you have your safety, and you can kind of see me moving the safety up and down. So that is when it's safe, that is when it's on fire, just like so. Right here, you have your bolt catch and your bolt release, serving two functions here, and then your good old magazine release button right here, and I actually have one sitting on the other side too. This right here is an ambidextrous magazine release. In back here, and I'm sorry, but this is of course being California compliant for the ARs, so I don't have a pistol grip and I don't have a buttstock that moves back and forth, so I do apologize with the way it looks, but it is what it is. I wanted to have a mag release button. That's the only way I can do it. Right back in here, I have my buffer tube and my buffer spring and my buffer all sitting in one piece. So right back here is the buffer tube itself. I'm going to take out the buffer and the buffer spring so you can see that. And that is just held down by the buffer detent right here. And that, once it all comes out right here, there is your buffer right there, and then your buffer spring all together. And like I said, that is just being held in place by a little detent sitting right in there, keeping that from going flying. Now the whole sole purpose of this buffer and buffer spring is it's the same as your guide rod and guide rod spring in a pistol. So this contracts, right? And that's when the bolt actually comes back after you fired a round. And then when it expands a bit again, that sends the bolt forward, loading the next round and being ready to fire the next round. So this, of course, is very, very important. You don't have one of these in here, you're shooting one shot and you are done. This allows the gun to cycle continuously, okay? Very important. And I just put that straight back in. And it gets locked into place by that detent sitting right there. Okay, that's the lower. Now we get into the upper here. This right here I'm going to be pulling back on. This is called the charge handle. And the charge handle is locked into place by a little lever right here, a little latch. So you can see everything's kind of held together and nothing's falling, right? But the second I release that latch, everything can come right out the bottom, just like this, right? So Always have that latch on when you are dealing with just the upper. It's safest to actually just take out the bolt so nothing falls out of here on accident or anything like that. So I release that charge handle right there. I can then reach inside and grab my bolt carrier group right out of the gun right there. Set that down. And then I want you to watch this closely because the charge handle sits on a sled that's right here on what would be the top of the receiver. But when flipped upside down, it looks like the bottom, right? And that goes back and forth here. But once I hit a certain point, you'll see that I can actually lift up the whole thing, all right? And it comes right out just like so. So that actually finds a section that it drops into. You see that right there? It just drops into place. There are wings that are sitting right on here, little wider spots that are towards the end, towards the upper part of the charge handle, the part that sits above the bolt. And those wings kind of lock it into place, keeping it on that sled. If I try to put it in this way, it's not going to work. It has to go through the large opening and then drop down into place. And that's the only way it can stay on its sled. A little fun fact there for you. So here we have our upper receiver, right? And now there is no bolt carrier or charge handle in there. We have our upper receiver sitting right here. And then we have our lower receiver sitting right here. And in a quick few moments, we're going to be getting into the nuts and bolts of the bolt carrier group and taking that apart further so you can kind of see the internal workings of the bolt carrier group, which is this right here. Okay, now that we're taking the bolt carrier group apart, the first thing we want to do is remove the firing retaining pin. And that sits right here on the left-hand side. I'm going to use my little tool here, which is kind of its own little pin itself. And I use that to go inside the hole, the open hole right there, and start lifting that up. Now you can see how it's raised right here. Yep. And all I'm going to do from here is just pull that straight out, just like so, and have that sit to the side. Once that is out, this is kind of neat here. Just turn this, give it a little shake, and then your firing pin comes right out, right here. Clean that off a bit. These firing pins get very dirty. Okay, and so this part right here, the front of this, is what actually hits the primer and makes the bullet go bang. So this is the front of the firing pin, and this right here is the rear of the firing pin. All right, so once the firing pin is out and the firing retaining pin is out, I go on to my next part, which is the bolt cam pin. And the bolt cam pin is sitting right here at the top. And all I have to do is push back on the bolt assembly right here, and I just rotate this upside down and it should fall right out just like so. So this is your bolt cam pin. That bolt cam pin is holding my bolt assembly and my carrier, bolt assembly and carrier together, and I just can pull that straight out just like so. And you see that open hole that's sitting right there? That is where the bolt cam pin fits into, right here, just like that. It'll sit just like so, right? So now that we have all that taken apart, just to go over everything one more time, we have our carrier, we have our bolt assembly, we have our firing pin, we have our firing retaining pin, and we have our bolt cam pin. Those are the major pieces that make up a bolt carrier group. The only thing we're missing here is the gas key, which actually sits up here on a normal bolt carrier group. This is a piston system gun that I had mentioned earlier. Did I mention earlier? If I didn't mention it, I'm mentioning it now. The Sig 516 is a piston system rifle. So it does not use a normal gas key. What it actually has is a flat face here, sitting right there, where the piston from the upper actually hits this section right here. That's what throws the bolt back and forth to make the gun cycle. So that's the only difference there, just there is no gas key here. In a sense, this is a piston version of a gas key right there. Let's put this all back together now. First thing we're going to do is take our bolt assembly and take our carrier, and we're going to put those back together just like so. Now, one of the most important things is you have sitting here, if you look at the front right here, as I spin this, you have all of your teeth are the same size. You can see that, right? Except for one. This one right here. This is your extractor. So this is very important when you're putting a bolt back together because you need to make sure that that extractor is on the correct side. The correct side for this bolt, being a right-handed bolt, is going to be the right side because you want that casing to come out of the rifle on the right-hand side. So you have to make sure that that extractor is facing the right. And I always look at it as usually there's a couple indentations here that are normally not on the other side, right? So I make sure that I line up everything towards that. I'm also looking at these two holes here in the rear and making sure that they all line up on the right-hand side. Once that is done, I am able to put my bolt cam pin back into place. I'm going to extend my bolt assembly forward, and I'm going to rotate my cam pin horizontally. If we're looking at this bolt being vertical, the cam pin is going to be horizontal, a cross section of that, right? And the reason why it has to be this way is to allow the firing pin to go in through the bottom of the bolt here, just like so, right? It's going to find its way and just ends up sitting right into place like that. So if that cam pin is in the wrong direction, like this, your firing pin will not sit. It will not go down. If I even put pressure on it, nothing will happen. But the second that I rotate this pin, we'll see what happens here with the firing pin, falls right into place, just like so, okay? So once the firing pin is back into place, we are going to reinsert our firing retaining pin, just like so, until it sits flush, and then we are done putting our bolt back together. Okay, now it's time to put the whole rifle back together, okay? First thing we start with was the last thing that we took off, which was the charge handle. I'm going to take my upper receiver, flip it on over, and just like we talked about earlier, this is going to start through the large hole in the back, find its way to the second shelf. Ooh, it wants to. There it goes. Find its way to the second shelf, and now it's finding its way on that sled. That's what we want, the ability to go back and forth. What I do is I extend it about halfway out because I need the bolt carrier group to sit on that. Now we see how there's a notch at the top, and this is what we talked about earlier. This is where the piston system hits the bolt carrier group. What we're going to do is flip that over because, again, the rifle is upside down too, so everything has to match up. And that's going to sit right there on the ledge of the charge handle, and I'm just going to start pushing that forward all the way till it closes. Once it's to this point, all I do, give it a good little slam, and I know that it's in place. We know it's not going anywhere after that, okay? So that's locked into place right there. Then we grab our lower receiver again, right? And I'm going to knock out those same pins that I used to take down before, the front one and the rear, and have those open. They want to be sitting just like so, high up, because I'm going to take the bottom and put them together just like so. Once that's in place and I see that they're lined up correctly, I'll kind of lock them in just like so. Here we go. Push on the front one, that locks that into place. Push on the rear one, that's locked into place. And all I want to do is just do a cycle test to make sure it works. So I'm pulling back on the charge handle, making sure the bolt goes back and forth. I'm not hearing anything out of the ordinary, so I know that that's been all put together correctly. And it's time to go test fire it. So I'm going to go to the range and have some fun with it. And I will see you guys very soon. Take care. No, 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 no.
It's part of me.
Part of me.
Okay.
Okay, hi. Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hi, Lauren.
Oh, hi, Aiden.
To check inside and make sure that there are no rounds sitting inside the chamber and no rounds sitting somewhere inside here in front of that bolt, which we do not see at all. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, we're in the middle of shooting a video right now. Okay, back to work. Should we start from scratch?
No.
No. Alright, or you pull it out just like that. Real easy. Just held on by a pinky.
We got
these two parts that flip to the side, the flip bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. The true technical term for this is called a charge handle, and what's interesting about this is it is one of the most important pieces on the rifle. It is also the easiest to break, like she said, the lightest, and the weakest part out of all these because of how thin the aluminum or the alloy making the part is. A lot of times you'll see the charge handle will get ripped from the head back. This whole part, this section will go flying. Sometimes charge handles will actually get bent. And the nice little latch that locks it into place, that sometimes will break also because it does stick out pretty far on my rifle in particular. So just watch out for that. That's very important to have this well kept, and just give it a check every once in a while, just making sure that everything is still running correctly on there.
It's a good time.
It's a big deal. It's a good time?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having fun, right?
Peace out.